Hello guys, so in this video we will be going to see how we can deploy an AWS Lambda function along with the dependency layer using code pipelines. Okay, so what we are going to do, I already have an Flask application that is running on Lambda function along with a layer of Flask. Okay, so in this library basically I have Flask installed and there are some other libraries as well. Okay, so if I quickly show you, so here is the API gateway URL of that Lambda function. Okay, so now what we are going to do, I already pushed this code to GitHub and like these are the some sample files. So what we are going to do, first we will be going to create an AWS CodeBuild project, and in that we would be kind of uh, configure it to run every time if a new commit is pushed to this repository main branch. Okay, and in that kind of in this build project we would be taking care how we can update the Lambda function code and also update the layer as well. Okay, so what I am going to do, I will create a project. Okay, so let's name it app deployment. You can kind of provide any name. Then after it is asking for source, like source is the exact code from which it has to pulled out. Okay, so we have to pull this the code from AWS Git, I mean sorry, from GitHub. So I will going to select GitHub, get inside the GitHub repository. Let's use Flask app. Okay, so I think here like we have selected the kind of URL for this repository. Then after it is asking for the source version, so we can just keep it default only. Then after it is asking for webhook optional info rebuild every time a code changes is pushed to this repository. Okay, so if you have not selected this, so let's say you have pushed a new commit to this repository, that would not be kind of directly deployed onto this Lambda function. You have to visit to AWS this code build project and then after start the build manually. Okay, if in case you selected this webhook, it is kind of asking you every time a new a new commit is pushed to this GitHub repository, it will auto run this code build project. Okay, so I will select this single build only. Then after, just keep all the configurations default, and also in the environment you can select anything on demand reserve. So obviously if you're in going for production and kind of your application requires a very heavy really a high user base and very high kind of importance, then you can go with the reserve capacity. Otherwise on demand is definitely fine. Managed image, and then after the compute is EC2 Lambda, whatever you want, you can think of. So Lambda is a little fast in comparison to EC2. So for now I'm keeping all the configurations default. Okay, then after I think let's quickly go ahead. Then after it is asking for like what exactly you want to do inside this code build project. Okay, so what we can do, either we can push all the commands here, or another way is uh, we are kind of saying AWS code build to use a build spec file inside the GitHub repository only, inside the code structure. Okay, so I have used this use a build spec YAML file. So if you see, I have an build spec file here. Okay, so we would be what we will do, we will understand this file as well. Okay, after that I think done. Let's create a build project. Okay, so first time if you create it, it will going to kind of auto start the deployment pipeline. And after that, every time you push a new commit to this repository, it will going to run. Okay, this code build project. So what we have to do, okay, let's understand this build spec YAML file also. Okay, so here we have like the version info, then after some phases. So phases are basically the install, builds and post build. Okay, so kind of what code build has to do before building this project, inside the build stage, after the build stage. Okay, so that this is just a stage that is I think a way of defining YAML file for AWS code build, but it's kind of straightforward, I will say. Okay, so let's understand those commands first. Okay, so first of all we are saying echo installing dependencies, so it is just a message for us to give me a second, why it has filter group cannot be empty, filter group. Okay, it is asking for like what it has to do. Push, pull request created, released, push. Okay, So whenever a push happened, okay. So kind of we can role with name code build app deployment service role already exists. So what we are going to do, let's rename this role. Okay. So role name, what I will do, I will just copy this. Again, I am going to see here, okay, app deployment role, create build project. Yeah, so this time I think this should be created. So let's go here again, I think. Okay, so first of all, we are kind of just putting out the message like we are installing dependencies, so that just it would be easier for user to understand like at where exactly it is, right? Then after in the second step, what I am doing is if requirement.txt, then echo requirement.txt found, else echo requirement.txt not found. It is just a way to check if requirement.txt file exists or not, right? In the next step, what we are doing is pip install -r requirements or txt -t python. Okay, so what we are doing, we are just installing those all the dependencies listed out in the requirement.txt file inside the python folder. Okay, so kind of it will going to create a new folder with name python, and then after we'll install all those dependencies that you have mentioned inside the requirement.txt file. Okay, after that again it is saying echo checking installation packages. So this is just for the debugging purpose I have added. So kind of it is a way to list out all the files inside the python directory. Okay, then after I am kind of I have added and check if this python folder is empty, then just echo python directory is empty, otherwise echo python directory is not empty. Okay, just it's just a way to verify if this folder is empty or not, right? So just checking if this line is running correctly. Okay, then after in the build stage, what we are doing, again echoing create layer zip file. So what we are going to do, we are just going to zip this python folder so that we can upload it to the AWS Lambda layer. Okay, so I have just running this command zip -r. -r is basically recursive, so it will going to zip all the files inside this python directory and name it as an python.zip. Okay, after that I am again checking if python.zip exists or not. So that's I think normal command, we have already seen it multiple times. Then after I am echoing zipping deployment package. So this is kind of I am preparing the deployment project which we have to upload onto the AWS Lambda function. Okay, so here kind of I am again running zip -r recursive deployment package.zip dot means all the files inside the project folder except is basically -x to exclude some of the files. So I don't want to include star.git files, python folder, and also the requirement.txt as it is not required there, right? Then after I am again checking if deployment package.zip created successfully or not, right? Okay, so till now what we have done, we already have two zip files. The first one is requirement.zip, python.zip for uploading to AWS Lambda layer, and another one is deployment package.zip to upload it to the AWS Lambda function. Okay, now what we are doing in the post build command is I am just echoing again a message updating Lambda layer. So first of all, what I am doing is if python.zip, I am checking if python.zip file exists. Just this is the command basically to update the layer. Okay, so what we are doing is actually this is the command to update the AWS Lambda layer. So AWS Lambda publish layer version hyphen layer name. So here you have to kind of enter the layer name which you wanted to update. Okay, so for my case it is the name is Flask only, but if in your case it is some different name, you can rename it. Then after the zip file, so it is file b python.zip which we have created in the build stage, and hyphen query layer version arn. So what exactly it is, so first of all it is going to update the python layer. Then after I am querying what is the layer version arn. Okay, so the reason is this command, once this command runs successfully, it is going to output the layer version arn. Then after I'm going to use this arn to update my AWS Lambda function, right? The reason is like as of now I'm using this first version only. Okay, so if it run again, so it would be the second version. So I have to update this Lambda function to use the second version, right? So that's the reason of having this as an output. So I think so kind of we would get this layer version ARN. So in the next step, what I will going to do, so for now we are again echoing update lambda function code. So now we are going to update the lambda function, right? So I have run this command. If you see AWS Lambda update function code, function name flask app hyphen zip file deployment package.zip. Again, it's a basic command to update the lambda function. I am just passing the deployment package.zip, like the file with which I have to update the lambda function. Okay. So once this is done, what we have to do, we have to again update the layer version, right? That is important. So so let's skip this retries logic for a quick short time. So if you see this line, basically AWS Lambda function, AWS Lambda update function configuration, function name flask app with layer version, the layer version ARN, which we have gotten in the previous stages. Okay. Now the question arises why we have retries is equal to 5. So actually what happens is once you run this command to update the lambda function code, it will going to take some time. So if you again run this update lambda function configuration, the AWS sometimes gives us an exception like the lambda function update is still in progress. Please wait. So kind of what I will do, I have retry. So first time it will going to retry, and then after sleep for 10 seconds, and then after again going to retry. Okay. So it kind of wait for some time so that like AWS lambda function updated its code successfully, and once that is done, it will going to update the lambda version ARN. Okay. So I hope it clarifies the complete deployment build spec.uml. If you have like, let's say you wanted to make some change, you can make it in this very easily, right? So I will come here. So it says project app deployment already exists. So what I will do, I will just rename it. I am like, not sure, maybe some kind of, I'm trying before this before recording this video. So maybe I think some I will name it again Python deployment. Okay, now I'm going to save it. Not sure why it has given us like this message like project app deployment already exists. Okay, so now you can see like we have this project Python app deployment. So kind of it would be going to I think, not sure why it has not started first time. So maybe I think first time let's quickly start this build. So build has been started and it is in progress, and now you can see the build logs as well. Okay, so what we are going to do first, we will like we'll see this logs as well, right? So this would be interesting to see us, right? Interesting to see. It will not take very much time, it will be quicker. So first of all, if you see running on CodeBuild demand, so it is some messages from the AWS side only, but first time it is like it has kind of echoed this running command echo installing Python version 3.11. Then after running command echo installing dependencies. So kind of like this is the message that we have added. Then after installing requirement.txt, so now you can see kind of it is installing those dependencies. Then after I think it is kind of adding those layers file or dependencies. Then after I think all those run successfully. Here you can see there is an error. I think an error occurred, access denied exception when calling the published layer version of on operation. Okay, so the issue is, if you see, we have this Python app deployment code build project. A service role is assigned to this, right? This service role don't have access to modify or change this lambda function or the layer as well. Okay, so to provide this access, basically we are going to attach the appropriate permission. So for the time being, what I'm going to do, I will just assign the lambda full access, but definitely I think inside the production you should have to limit this. Okay, so this is done. So I think in the next step, what I will do, I will just quickly commit a new change. So what I will do, as of now, if you see, if I refresh it, here it shows contact us. So I will change this message to contact me, or maybe anything just random. So let's rename it to contact with me, and then after I will going to commit this change. So ideally I think this Python app deployment should start running. So if I refresh it, yeah, so now you can see a new build has been started by itself, right? 6 seconds ago, and submitter is GitHub hook stock, right? So this kind of started by itself only. So that's a really a good kind of if you're in the production, or maybe once a commit is coming on main branch or whatever your production branch, then after you can just start the build by itself, right? So now again I think it's kind of installed all those libraries. Then after entering phase in the pre-build stage, build, creating layer zip file. So now you can see the exact messages, right? So yeah, so here you can see the deployment zip file created successfully. Now it is kind of updating the Lambda layer. So Lambda layer updated with AR and this. So version is 4, and now you can see it kind of run the Lambda function update code. So I think we got the here output as well. So this time you see this error comes, right? Resource conflict exception when calling the update function operation. The reason being is above update Lambda function code is still running. Okay, so might be it will take a time. Okay, so now it has been successfully, and now you can see phase completed post build status, right? So if I come here and just refresh it, so now you can see the message has been changed, right? And even if you refresh it here, like previously here should be the code should also be updated, right? I think it is pretty obvious, like if it is coming here, then so let's quickly see the code as well. So even if I show you the Flask layer version as well, like previously it was some different, and now it is fourth version, right? Which this has been created, right? So if we show where is the version, I think here is the version, right? So fourth version. And now if I show you quickly, so here we have contact with me, right? So this is how basically you can create a code build project to update your Lambda function and your Python layer, this Lambda layer as well. Like this is really a good I will say service. Okay, so that's it for this video. If you have any queries or like feedback for me, do post it on the comment section, and also if it helps, please do subscribe to the channel. Thank you.